Hi, everyone. Hello, welcome again to another session on business and storytelling. So, in the past few weeks, I've been coming online and I've been sharing with you everything around business storytelling, how you can use it in a strategic way, what are the myths around storytelling, what are the things that work, what are the things that don't work, and also what are the truths around business storytelling and how to use it strategically in your organization. And we talked about why leaders struggle with sharing their stories. We talked about how it can be a powerful strategic tool to use in the organization, but also, and this is one of the things that I've worked with teams for a very long time, storytelling, bringing storytelling internally and specifically in your team has a very interesting and major effect. It has an effect on the motivation of the team, on the clarity of the purpose, and this is what we are going to talk about today. My name is Beatrice Kabutakapua, and I am the CEO and founder of the company, the Business Storytelling Center. And this is where we train and coach leaders so that they are able to communicate their stories, the values that the team brings. They are able to communicate the vision of the company and the culture of the company by using stories. Today, I'm going to be joined by a person that I really like. And it's so nice when I work with people. And this is one of the perks of having my own business, because we can really work with people that we enjoy and we like, which is nice. And before I invite her to the stage and to have a conversation around how to use storytelling to strengthen teams, I wanted to remind you that on June 6th, we are going to run a very practical session. And this session will be in London in person. And during this session, you will learn how to use storytelling as a leadership tool. It will be a session based on the framework that I've developed around using storytelling in leadership. And we will be focusing specifically on how to find the stories to share. Because this is a challenge that oftentimes leaders have. They don't know whether their stories matter, they don't know what stories to share. So within this framework, we are going to focus on how to find those stories. I will put the link to book the session in the comments, but if you have any questions about it, you can message me. Now, on to talking about how to use storytelling to strengthen teams. I want to invite to the stage Rita Girotti from Save the Children. Hi, Rita.
Hi Beatrice, hi everyone. So nice to be with you today, and thank you for the amazing introduction. You know that it's mutual. I really like you, and
Thank
as
you.
I told you, it was love at first sight when we met.
Thank you so much, Rita. It would be great if you could introduce yourself and the work that you do at Save the Children.
Of course. So I want to start to say my job is one of the most amazing ones. I love it. Working for children, isn't that incredible? It's like working to build the future, right? So I'm feeling like I'm building the future, helping children, supporting children. So what I do in practice is I engage donors and companies in particular, like the big ones like Bulgar, Unilever, IKEA, Lego, so that we can create alliances, as we like to call them, partnerships to deliver impact value for children. Isn't that a wonderful story, Beatrice?
It's amazing. And it's amazing because, and there could be so many questions that I could ask you around that, but I won't, just to keep it in time. But it's amazing because, I can imagine that connecting to other brands and companies also means that you have to be able to advocate in a way for the children that you support. So you have to share their stories on top of your story in terms of, why you're doing what you're doing.
That's exactly right. And we absolutely need to be able to bring those stories. Sometimes it's incredible because we can actually bring our donors to witness directly those stories that they help to contribute to create. Other times we have to be the bridge, right, to the bridges, and be able to tell the stories of the children that tell us their stories. So I'm so proud of my job, and I'm privileged, really privileged and lucky to be able to do that.
Awesome. Thank you. And instead of going into the stories, sharing other people's stories, which would be a totally different chapter in itself.
Next time.
Yes. That's going to be an episode 2 of this conversation. I wanted to talk more about how we met and the work that we've done together. Obviously, not in super details because we want to. One of the rules when I do the training session is that what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So, but I want to give people an idea of other ways that storytelling can be used, not just for marketing and communication externally, but to give them an idea of the work that we have done together within your team.
Yeah, absolutely. So we met when you came to one of our skill shares as a facilitator, and you weren't given an easy task because you had to facilitate a meeting with a very large crowd of people coming from very different environments, different cultures, different countries. And we were talking about strategy, about marketing, fundraising, but also some hard stuff like data, things that aren't so sexy. Can I use that word, right?
Yes.
So, but you brought an incredible magic touch with your storytelling, and you made everything feel very engaging, fantastic to discuss. But let's not go into the details. Maybe later. I'm happy to share a few details and a few examples. So that's how we met. You came and facilitated. You brought the storytelling techniques to that event and brought fantastic ideas to help us have those discussions, sometimes challenging, but with your approach, they sounded very constructive and, again, more impactful, more engaging, and also a bit lighter than usual. So that was incredible. Thank you. And then as I said, I fell in love with you and your approach. So I also asked you to support me and the team to become stronger at storytelling. So you then came to one of our retreat and you supported us with storytelling, and you helped us learn some of the techniques to be able to tell our stories better and in a more effective way.
Awesome. Thank you so much for summarizing that. And I absolutely loved both sessions. And it's obviously, and this is happens in so many different organizations, especially now since COVID, there were so many different people from so many different countries. And oftentimes the work is remote and you don't really get the chance to interact on another level or maybe spend the time to remind to each other why you're doing what you're doing. And I'm wondering, I know you shared that we talked about the storytelling techniques and we talked about some challenging topics as well and data and different things. But I'm wondering more in terms of I guess the effect of of approaching things through a story lens. What were the effects both on the facilitation, but also and primarily within your team?
Yeah, sure. So look, I could speak for hours about this. So the challenge is to be to be specific. Maybe I'll share a few things that really stood out for me. One was the emotional touch to topics that normally wouldn't bring the emotional human touch, right? When you speak about data or strategies, um, it's a different story compared to when you speak about the stories of children, as we were saying before, right? So being able to treat that with a storytelling approach brought in that emotional approach that helped create those bonds and those connections among teams. And that was very powerful. So we could see the difference immediately when we started telling the stories about who we are, what we do, how we approach things, how we work. So that was truly transformational. I remember in that meeting. So I really created a lot of connections, team, and the meeting, the retreat was about team building. So that was super effective. So that's clearly one practical result. The other element I would bring in is the motivation, and you mentioned that in your preface. Motivation is so critical in a team. When a person is motivated, they can like conquer the world, really. So the storytelling techniques approach, what we learned from you, really motivated the team. They felt that they were more equipped. They could have additional tools in their toolkit to be able to do their work, and that motivated them a lot. And this empowered them, motivated them, felt they could be even stronger in their approach. So these were all incredible results. And of course, that also spoke of development. So people had a fantastic development opportunity, which we hadn't really planned for. It was more about motivation, connection, bonding. But as a result, there were so many other positive effects, I would say. And if you allow me now, later, I want to share my cards that I
Oh,
keep
go
close to
ahead.
me.
Now, first of all, thank you so much for sharing that and for, highlighting how it changed the motivation. And there are always different approaches, right, to team building and different things that people can do. But I've always found that really the approach to stories is so simple, cost effective as well, and you can be anywhere in the world or in any space, and it still can work, and you still can share stories. But also, as you said, like the motivation and then the connection, which it was so amazing to see even during the session, from an external eye. It was so amazing to see the connection between your stories and then the work that you do at Save the Children. It was just like, of course. And then to build that connection with the team, that was fantastic. And I will give you the space to share what you were going to share. I will just say that we were saying before we started that it's like the gift that keeps on giving, right?
Yeah.
Because in terms of the development, it's something that you start learning and then you implement, and then you implement a little bit more, and you continue like that. And I know that you have some examples of that.
Yes, so first of all, if you can see these, so speaking of simplicity, you were saying that before, right? Doesn't have to be super sophisticated. Now, I'm sure that storytelling can become also very sophisticated. The more you learn, the better you become, the more trained you are. But it can also be as simple as some cards and brochures that I keep with me. And these were, you call them the story prompts. And they're amazing. So basically, they are cards with sentences, with questions that forces you to reflect and to consider a different approach and how you can tell your stories. So it's a sort of a guidance. That's how I want to describe it, or how it works for me. It's a prompt for reflecting, for guiding me, to make me think of a different approach to tell my story and to convey my messages. So I've been invited by a fundraising conference here in Italy to present and to give a speech, a lecture. So in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to give that lecture. And when I was preparing for it, I took out my cards, your cards that are now my cards, and I started using them to think about how I could convey my messages, how I could give the story that I wanted to give, and I will let you know how it goes. But I'm very satisfied with how the speech is shaping up. And it's a different approach compared to how I would have given this lecture like before engaging with you and working with you. So these cards are just amazing, and again, they're very simple, straightforward. Literally anyone could use them. Amazing, really, really love them. And also this mini brochure that you gave us in the first event that you facilitated. I mean, it's just amazing. When they say the most powerful things are the simplest ones, this really speaks to this brochure because it's a brochure that shows the different steps, encourages you to think about the challenges, the transformation that you want, the lessons um, that you've learned, the actions that you need to take, the solutions. I mean, it's a strategy in a simple brochure with a storytelling framework. It's just amazing, simple and so effective.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I personally like simplicity in things. I think that a lot of the time there is a tendency to overcomplicate things that are very simple and that can be very simple. And that's really at the core of stories as well. You can be in 2024 or in 1986 or in 1920s, and you can still share stories no matter what practical tools you have. But I also saw, because we worked together in the first event, and then we had the session with the team, and then we worked together at another event, and I could really see how your team not only was connected, but also in the way you were presenting in the second event. I was so proud. There was so much energy, so much engagement, so much clarity. And I wonder, did you realize that?
Look, yes, we did realize that, and it was amazing. We could feel the audience was really following us, right? You could sense it because you see that people are really engaged. They ask questions, but you can look at their eyes and they're really following you, even if you're talking about things they haven't heard before. They're not like too familiar with, or things that maybe they don't totally agree with, but still they're engaged, they're eager to learn, and so yeah, we could sense it. Even if I must say, I'm always someone who loves to check in with other people after the speeches and etc. So I remember I came to you and to other people saying, what did you think? Give me some feedback. And also I'm a big fan of continuous learning, continuous improvement, and etc. So but yeah, I could definitely sense that the audience was with us, was following us, was really engaged, and so yeah, it was really good.
Awesome. And it's great that you actually do the check-in after or
Mm.
even before, because, it's that's another thing where I see that oftentimes leaders fail in a way, because, you do the speech, you do the presentation, you share the story, and then that's it.
Bye bye.
Really, you really want to make sure that you listen to your audience, whether you listen to them before so that you can shape the story, or whether you listen to them after so that you can shape the action that follows the story. So that's a great thing. I wonder, what suggestion would you give, or what takeaways, or yeah, you can choose either takeaways or suggestions that you would give to teams who want to try and use storytelling to connect more.
So first of all, I think for me, there's always an element that's important, and this is preparation. So of course, you can always improvise. There are people who are great at improvising. I'm all up for preparation. So prepare, learn, rehearse, try, really dedicate time, right? So this is something, storytelling is not like someone might think it's just telling a fun story. It's not that. It's an actual technique. It can be a business technique, and I like the fact that you call it business storytelling, right? So for me, it's prepare yourself, dedicate time, and learn. And the other element is authenticity. So I think you always have to bring that authenticity element. So don't create something that doesn't feel good for you because other people are doing it well or other people have told you. So there are many nuances, many different ways. You have to find the one that sticks for you, that you feel comfortable with, and that brings your authenticity and makes it even more engaging. It helps you connect. And this is something that I've learned from you, Beatrice. Maybe if you allow me, another final thing in terms of suggestion tips, I think, again, I'd like to underline two things. Number one, I've learned that you can really apply storytelling to any topics or most of the topics. So also, again, you can tell a story about a project about data. That might be more difficult than another topic, but it is possible. So that's important. And the other point is, as you said, it's for everyone. So it can be at a more sophisticated level or at a basic level, but just take the first steps. And then little by little you will learn and become better and train. But it can be as simple as a prompt card that you start using, or a story about the savannah, as you heard us. We told the story about the savannah, the animals, the lions in the savannah.
Exactly, and I like that you also mentioned that, to take things step by step. It doesn't need. Oftentimes when people think about storytelling, they think about the huge stage, and and it's very difficult to think about how you translate that either in your team or in a one-to-one conversation. But it's really about those step by step, and then implementing slowly, and not implementing like everything all at once, which is incredibly overwhelming, but just implementing it slowly. And once you've done it, what I've seen, at least in your team, is that then you keep on doing it. You either do it in the organization, you do it when you present outside, you do it when you talk individually. So that's just practice, right? It's the practice that's behind the art.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, it's new, it's innovative, something different. I think we've all got enough of PowerPoint presentations or those bullet points. And I mean, I'm sure you can have fantastic PowerPoints as well. But something different, like storytelling, also provides a bit of a change, a bit of some of different experience that people sometimes don't expect, and that per se already is good because it's a bit of a break. I remember again in that event we were mentioning about there was so many presentations, so many PowerPoints, and people like were dead with presentation, were dying, and interesting stuff. Don't get me wrong, very important content and stuff, but the how wasn't sometimes very powerful because it was delivered through old styles or things or an approach that wasn't so engaging. So that's what storytelling helps you doing, convey some very good content and stuff in a more innovative, different way that can engage people and have them think, oh wow, this is good for a change, not another PowerPoint again, right?
Exactly. And there are always, always, always so many stories to share. It's something that we will never end having stories to share. Thank you so much, Rita. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we close our conversation?
Just an invite to start. So you have to start. Start simple, start with an initial step. Beatrice, I'm sure, has got a lot of tips and tricks. So do get in touch with Beatrice, do get into storytelling, and it can become addictive. So
That's enough addiction to have.
Exactly, exactly. Thank you so much.
Thank
I've
you.
really enjoyed being with you today, Beatrice.
Thank you so much, Rita. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thank you so much for following us today. If you are catching the replay after, make sure that you share your takeaways and your aha moments and your questions in the comments so that I can address them, or Rita as well. I'm sure she will be available to answer your questions if you have any questions around how to use storytelling to build, to make sure that your team is stronger together and is more motivated and inspired and productive. As I mentioned at the beginning, there is always a way to implement the learning. It's easy to share the theory, but the real transformation, you see it when you're actually implementing the learning. So I will be running an in-person training session on June 6th to make sure that you implement as well as having the theory behind it. And we will focus on a framework that I've developed after working with hundreds of leaders from all over the world. And this framework is really about understanding what stories to share, how to share them, and how to lead, how to be a leader who shares stories. I am going to put the link in the comments. If you have any questions about it, send me a message. And I will see you next week on Thursday with another conversation on business, storytelling, and leadership. Thank you so much for following. Bye.